This is a quick introduction showing you how to get started with my After Effects plugin PixelRepeat. It creates these glitchy visuals like these. It has this repeating look to it. So I'm going to recreate a couple of these shots and explain the features along the way. The final project files will be available with the plugin download, so make sure to check out the link in the description below. Let's get started. So for the first shot, I just have this clip of me walking down this street, and I'm just going to add PixelRepeat to it. And when you drag that onto the clip, you can immediately see that it's starting to do something, and we have a bunch of options here on the left. So we can change the direction, for example, or we can change the repeat length, and then you can see what it's actually repeating over there. So if we change this to point down to 180 degrees, and then we lower the repeat length to some value that looks nice, somewhere where you can really see the detail in the buildings. Let's say something like this. And then you can also play around with, for example, the mirror, which if you enable it, it will do a sort of ping-ponging effect. So it looks more like a smoother up and down sort of repeating instead of harshly going from A to B every time. But I'm going to disable that for this shot. And I'm going to play around with the offset. You can animate the offset if you like. So this just animates the streaks internally. And for this shot, that's already everything I wanted to show. This is already the original shot as it was in the demo, which looks pretty cool. But if you want to exclude certain areas, or you want to go a bit more advanced with this plugin, I think the next clip is going to be a better example for those things. For the second clip, I want to have a little bit more control over what parts are being repeated and what parts aren't. So I'm going to duplicate this layer first, and then rename it to matte. And then I'll add PixelRepeat to the original clip, to the one on the top. And then in the matte settings, we can change the layer to matte and set the source to effects and masks. So nothing will change visually, but now we can apply masks to this matte layer. And that way PixelRepeat will respect those masks and without affecting the original image. So before we get into that, let's just make this look a little nicer. So let's make this point up. 0 degrees, and then we can change the repeat length a little bit so we can see what's going on. So the road is being picked up a lot, so which makes sense because the channel is set to luminance, which is the default. So that's what the threshold is measuring. If the threshold goes over 0.75, then it will start repeating. So that means if you lower the threshold, more pixels will be repeating, and if you increase it, then fewer pixels will be repeating. So if we set it back to 0.75, we get the road to repeat, but this graffiti, which is colorful, stays right there because it's not the right luminance. So that's kind of not what we want. So let's change this channel to saturation times luminance. That might already help a bit because we want the highly saturated areas to repeat. So I'm just clicking on saturation times luminance and then lowering the threshold. And you can see that now the walls and the colorful parts of the image are being picked up first. And if I scroll through it, let's go a bit lower even. At some point the road will come back in because the road is also to some extent saturated. So we're gonna need to use masks here, but I thought this would be good to show anyways, that this is a built-in feature that you can use. So in the matte layer, let's click on the pen tool and let's add a mask that just fills this road so that we can exclude it. So let's hit M and then set it to subtract. And then you can see that when I move the mask around, PixelRepeat is avoiding those pixels. So I'm just placing that on the road. So now we can safely lower the threshold even further, knowing that the road won't come back in again. So we can kind of make this look nice in a way that the graffiti is really being picked up. We can also animate the offset, of course. I'll show the transparent option in the next shot. And then for the output, we could also set the show value to effect only. If we now disable the matte that's underneath, you can see that it's only outputting the effect of PixelRepeat. So this is handy in case you want to combine it with other effects. And you can also set it to visualization, which will show you a gradient of where PixelRepeat is happening. So white is where the streak starts and black is where it ends. If you give the streaks a custom length, you can actually see the gradients happening. And yeah, you can maybe use this in combination with other effects to create drop shadows or other sort of extrusion effects out of real life elements. Let's go check out the third clip, where I go a little bit more in depth on the visualization mode. For this third and last shot, I'm going to quickly show how the visualization mode can be used on very specific objects in your plate. So not the whole plate at the same time, but just, for example, this traffic sign over here. So I'm going to duplicate this layer and then call it matte. And then on the matte layer, I will just add a simple mask around the sign. And I'll just give it a couple of keyframes throughout the shot, just so it stays in there. That's good enough. So now we'll just follow the sign. And then on the clip, I will add pixel repeat. And I will go to matte and do the same thing we did before. Just set it to the layer matte and then set the source to effects and masks. And then set the channel to saturation times luminance, so that it really picks up just the sign and nothing else. So now we can lower the threshold and the sign should start to appear, which looks cool. We can rotate it a little bit. Of course, do the same things with the repeat length, increase that so we can see more of the detail of the sign. If you want to get rid of that background, by the way, this dark, which is just the original dark of the bridge, it's just repeating that too. But if you want to get rid of that, you can just enable transparency. And then you get this cool, you know, now it's kind of like floating through your scene. So you can do cool stuff with that. And then, of course, in the output settings, we can go to show and we can set that to, I mean, there's also effect only, which could be interesting. Let me just try that first. While we're there, what you're seeing over here is the matte layer. So I'm going to disable the matte layer so that we're only seeing the pixel repeat. So you could use this for some interesting effects as well, isolating elements in your footage and then repeating them like this. And then if you set this show function to visualization, you get that gradient again that we saw earlier, but now it's very clean because it's just one object. So you can kind of play around with that, create extrusion effects from it, some sort of 3D drop shadow stuff. And if you enable mirroring, then you get this cool zebra effect. So now if I lower this pixel count of the repeat, you get these really cool lines. And you can animate through that. You can even see the word merge in the sign still over here, which is kind of cool. It's still visible. There it is. That's pretty cool. So this effect is something that I think can be used to combine with other effects as a sort of utility effect. And I'm really curious to see what you guys will do with it. This is all I wanted to show for today, so I'm really excited and I hope that people will pick this up and make some cool stuff with it. Please go check it out. The link is in the description, and this project file, I'll clean it up a little bit and it will be included in the download as well. Thanks for watching.